First, we'll take wildly popular game shows for 400. And the answer is, this game show has been ranked as one of the greatest shows in American television history. If you hit the buzzer and answered what is Jeopardy, you'd have been correct.
Now, just about all of us have wondered how hard it might be to get on the show. In all, roughly 400 people go through a rigorous process to qualify and end up being contestants each year. And tonight, Portland resident Susan McMillan will be one of them. It had long been a dream of Susan McMillan's to be a contestant on Jeopardy.
These three people will compete today on Jeopardy!
It is the granddaddy of all game shows, having been on the air in one form or another since 1964.
And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Mr. Alex Trebek.
As for being a contestant, it all begins with an online test, which Susan McMillan took in the spring of 2020.
Many people take the test year after year and don't get on the show because there are, I think, hundreds of thousands of people who take it. So even if you pass the test, the pool of people who pass is so huge that there's a really very tiny chance that you even get called upon to take the next step. So I was actually very lucky that that happened the first year I took the test.
Does one prepare to go on Jeopardy, or do you just sort of say, I know what I know, I'm going to do my best?
I definitely studied. I made some online flashcards for categories that come up a lot, like Shakespeare, bodies of water. I made sure that I studied world capitals, but there wasn't really a lot of lead time. I started my professional life as a reporter, and especially at smaller newspapers like the ones where I worked, you could be assigned to cover just about any topic on any given day. And so you have to be a quick study. You have to know a little bit about a lot of topics and know how to learn more quickly.
She studied political science in college, has a good background in U.S. history, and reads the news all the time. She is an Army reservist and a freelance Arabic translator. Turns out she's been preparing for Jeopardy for quite some time.
My husband and I DVR it every night and then watch it the next day over lunch. And that actually is really great preparation too, because you start to see patterns and, in terms of like the categories and questions that come up, and you can think about like, what's my wagering strategy going to be if I'm in a situation like this?
Alex, let's make it a true daily double.
Transition to one, we got it, we know it, we're fine.
The show let her know in early January that she'd be taping her episode on February 1st in Los Angeles on the Sony Pictures lot. Because of COVID and strict protocols, there was no live audience, only the contestants waiting for their turn to tape.
I was sitting in the audience for 4 episodes before they taped mine. They do 5 episodes in a day. And so because I'm in the Friday episode, that means it was the last one recorded that day. And I was so impressed with the things that people were getting that I was like, wow, I have no clue. I have no clue how they knew that. And you get down there and you realize that most of the contestants know the answers to most of the questions.
It's one thing to watch the show countless times on television. It's another thing to be front and center, getting to see how the magic happens.
I think it worked out really well for me. I think my nerves would have been much worse if I had gone on earlier in the day. I mean, watching those first couple of episodes, I was shaking, even though I was sitting in the audience instead of being up on the stage. And I think, by the time I had been there for like 10 hours, I had mellowed out some. You see all the things that you don't have any idea about, like behind the lectern, there's this little riser that comes out of the floor that makes every contestant approximately the same height.
What do you think makes a good contestant on Jeopardy now that you've done it?
You definitely need to have a very broad base of knowledge because the categories that come up are so wide ranging. I always like to see people who are confident in what they know and willing to bet big.
20,200.
All right.
And, of course, you have to be very responsive on the buzzer.
She cannot talk about how she did on the show or what questions and categories she faced. The studio did release photos of her guest host, Dr. Oz.
I am disappointed that I was a few months too late to get to meet Alex, because obviously he's the reason the show has been so successful. But it was a thrill. I mean, standing on that stage, seeing the clue board in front of you that I had seen on TV for years, and meeting the other contestants and seeing just how incredible all of them are. It was a lot of fun.
Even though she is sworn to secrecy about the experience, she can tell us this.
Yeah, all I can say is I'll be making my Jeopardy debut on Friday.
Now that's tonight. In about 20 minutes, Jeopardy airs on ABC at 7:30. And while we don't normally promote programs on those other networks, I plan to tune in just as soon as 207 is over. And Rob, if she wins tonight, as you probably know, she will be the returning champ for Monday. So we wish her well.
It's remarkable how the contestants who've been on Jeopardy really do abide by that oath of secrecy. I don't know what the penalties are, but I've never heard of one who said what happened when he or she was not supposed to, and they're never supposed to.
And I said right at the beginning of our interview, if I ask something you can't answer, you'll tell me, and she sure did. She really kept it all under wraps. She told me the minimum of what she could tell me. I especially love that the risers behind the lectern, so everyone's the same height. I thought that was interesting.
I'd never heard that. Never heard that. I too found that really interesting, because what you always hear from the former contestants is the buzzer. The buzzer isn't as fast as you think it'll be, and the buzzer's a pain.
Right. Interesting.
All right. Nice story. Thanks, Peg.